Morning to you all guys and dear students. Today I am with you with the explanation of the second story in lesson 2, Lost Spring, Stories of Stolen Childhood. That second story, I want to drive a car. In this, a boy named Mukesh, this is the character of this story. Authoress Anish Jung says Mukesh persists on being his own master. He tells that he would be a motor mechanic. The authoress asks him, "Do you know anything about cars?" He answers, he will learn to drive a car. Looking straight into her eyes, his dream looms like a mirage amidst the dust of streets that fill his town Firozabad, famous for its bangles. Every other family in Firozabad is engaged in making bangles. It is the center of India's glass-blowing industry where families have spent generations working around furnaces, welding glass, making bangles for all the women in the country. It appears Mukesh's family is among them. None of them know that it is illegal for children like him to work in the glass furnaces with high temperatures in dingy cells without air and light, that the law, if enforced, could get him and all those 20,000 children out of the hot furnaces where they slog their daylight hours, work hard during the daytime, often losing the brightness of their eyes. Mukesh's eyes shine as he offers willingly to take authoress home, which he proudly says is being rebuilt. They both walk down stinking lanes chalked with garbage, past homes that remain hovels with crumbling walls, wobbly doors, no windows, crowded with families of humans and animals coexisting, living together in a trivial state. He stops at the door of one such house, knocks on a wobbly iron door with his foot and pushes it open. They both enter a half-built cabin. In one part of it, thatched with dead grass, is a firewood stove over which sits a large pot of boiling spinach leaves. Spinach is here a kind of green vegetable. On the ground, in large aluminium platters, dishes, are more chopped vegetables. A frail young woman, a thin and weak young woman, is cooking the evening meal for the whole family. Through eyes filled with smoke, she smiles. She is the wife of Mukesh's elder brother. Not much older in years, she has begun to command respect as the Bahu, the daughter-in-law of the house, already in charge of 3 men, her husband, Mukesh and their father. When the older man enters, she gently withdraws behind the broken wall and brings her veil closer to her face as custom demands. Daughters-in-law must veil their faces before male elders. In this case, the elder is an improvised poor bangle maker. Despite long years of hard labor, first as a tailor, then a bangle maker, he has failed to renovate a house, send his 2 sons to school. All he has managed to do is teach them what he knows, the art of making bangles. It is his karam, his destiny, says Mukesh's grandmother, who has watched her own husband go blind with the dust from polishing the glass of bangles. Can a God given lineage ever be broken? She indicates, born in the caste of bangle makers, they have seen nothing but bangles in the house, in the yard, in every other house, in every other yard, every street in Firozabad. Spirals of bangles, sunny gold, paddy green, royal blue, pink purple, every color born out of the seven colors of the rainbow, lie in mounds in uncleaned yards, are piled on four-wheeled handcarts pushed by young men along the narrow lanes of the shanty town, small town, and in dark hutments next to lines of flames of flickering oil lamps sit boys and girls with their fathers and mothers welding pieces of colored glass into circles of bangles. Their eyes are more adjusted to the dark than to the light outside. That is why they often end up losing their eyesight before they become adults. Savita, a young girl, is in a drab pink dress, sits alongside an elderly woman shouldering pieces of glass as her hands move mechanically like the tongs of a machine. The authoress wonders if she knows the sanctity of the bangles, auspiciousness of the bangles she helps make. It symbolizes an Indian woman's suhag, auspiciousness in marriage. It will dawn on her, it will make her understand suddenly one day when her head is draped with a red veil, covered with a red veil, her hands dyed red with henna, and red bangles rolled onto her wrist. She will then become a bride, like the old woman beside her who became one many years ago. She still has bangles on her wrist, but no light in her eyes. एक वक्त शेर भर खाना भी नहीं खाया, she says in a voice deprived of joy. She has not enjoyed even one full meal in her entire lifetime. That's what she has reaped. That's what she has earned or got. Her husband, an old man with a flowing beard, says, I know nothing except bangles. All I have done is make a house for the family to live in. Hearing him, one wonders if he has achieved what many have failed in their lifetime. He has a roof over his head. The cry of not having money to do anything except carry on the business of making bangles, not even enough to eat, rings in every home. The young men echo the lament of their elders. The young men have a continued influence of their old elders, passionate expression of grief. Little has moved with time, it seems. In Firozabad, years of mind-numbing toil have killed all initiative and the ability to dream. Why not organize yourselves into a cooperative? The authoress asks a group of young men who have fallen into the vicious circle of middlemen who trapped their fathers and forefathers. Even if we get organized, we are the ones who will be hauled up by the police, caught or arrested by the police, beaten and dragged or pulled into the jail for doing something illegal, they say. There is no leader among them, no one who could help them see things differently. Their fathers are as tired as they are. They talk endlessly in a spiral that moves from poverty to apathy, lack of interest, to greed and to injustice. Listening to them, the authoress saw two distinct words. One of the family caught in a trap of poverty, burdened by the stigma of caste in which they are born. The other a vicious circle of the sahukars, the middlemen, the policemen, the keepers of law, the bureaucrats, and the politicians. Together, they have imposed the baggage on the child. Together, they have compelled the child to suffer with heavy load that he cannot put down, that he cannot control. Before he is aware, he accepts it as naturally as his father. To do anything else would mean to dare, to have challenge, to take a risk, and daring is not part of his growing up. When the authoress senses a flash on it in Mukesh, she was cheered. He says he wants to be a motor mechanic. He will go to a garage and learn, but the garage is a long way from his home. He will walk. He insists. He persists. Authoress asks her, "Do you also dream of flying a plane?" He is suddenly silent. Says, "No," staring at the ground in his small, quiet expression of feeling, murmur, there is an embarrassment, shy feelings that has not yet turned into regret. He is content, he is satisfied to dream of cars that he sees hurtling down the streets, that he sees moving at a great speed down the streets of his town. Few aeroplanes fly over Firozabad. In this way, the authoress Anish Jung expressed the grief of the very poor children in the society who have spent their childhood without taking full enjoyment of the childhood. They lost their education time and suffered. Authoress want to convey the message in the society that the people who are in responsibility or the government pupils take some actions towards these such type of students and try to uplift their lifestyle. Dear students, now the second lesson is completed. You should complete the textual, written, long answer type questions or additional exercise in this lesson. Complete this lesson. Have a nice day to the next day. Thank you.